Alright, part 2. Before I start, I just want to say that it's completely okay if you have issues with any of the things I have to say. What I'm hoping for is for you guys to hear something that you never heard before. But when that happens is you never heard it before. There's usually a cognitive dissonance because you don't know it. You don't understand it. But then you have to digest it to see, hey, do I believe this or not? And even if I do, what do I do with that information? So it's a lot to take in. It's a process. But I hope what I say cross-checks with some of the stuff that you know if you've done your own research. Unless what you know is a lie. Or wrong. Sorry. Part 2. God kicks Lucifer out of heaven. Lucifer lands on earth. But earth is not the type of earth we know today. This earth is peach. If I remember correctly, it's more like peach. It's not blue and white, that much I know. And has a bubble over it. A different atmosphere. And that allows a different type of greenhouse effect to happen, which allows for the existence of huge plants and huge animals. I ascertained that there was a different type of gravitational field at that time too. One continent. It was lovely. Angels were, doing work, who knows what, but things were going on, and what I believe is a lot of prep work for what God wanted to do by bringing people in to play later. But it was distracted by Satan coming on earth, and of course Satan doing what he wants to do, or what he does, which is to kill, steal, and destroy. So he starts corrupting earth and cause the creatures that do live on the planet to start turning on each other, and who knows what. We don't know all the details, but he's destroying it. One quick thing to note about the devil at this point is he is hate, anger, bitterness, resentment, madness incarnate. He is all these things. He lost his mind, doesn't think clearly. He still thinks what he could fight against God. There's something missing. He is the definition of crazy. And so he starts corrupting the planet, but God stops him by popping that bubble that's over the planet. That water slams down onto the continent, causing cracks, tectonic plates. And then God blows on the planet and freezes it instantly. And as some of you know, we have fossils that serve as evidence that they froze in a split second, mid-chew, mid-fight, mid-run, and so forth. And so the earth was frozen for a long time. Let's call that creation 1. And then a long time passes. I'm assuming eons, whatever time is at this point, because it all changes when God reboots everything. In the beginning, God created heavens and earth. Verse 2, the earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God, Elohim, was hovering over the surface of the waters. So I'm imagining everything's probably water by now. Mud. But God he creates light, and he starts separating the water and the land, creating boundaries, creating the atmosphere, creating boundaries. That's important to note. One thing God does, creates boundaries. God creates vegetation, other creatures, and then mankind. And then God gives everything to mankind. After noting everything was good, he made this, he's like, it's good. He made that, it's good. He made man, it's good. But then he's like, oh, it's not good for man to be alone. It so creates women. That there's a great mystery regarding that. I might talk about that later. God creates everything, it's good. He gives it to Adam and Eve. And this world, I can imagine it to be a different type of planet than it is even to this day. Because imagine, there's no separation from you and God at this point. You can see him face to face. There's no sin. There's nothing he would not do for you. He would literally create the whole universe and everything in it for you. He gave everything. Like, he is not insecure. He's not concerned about rivalry. He's not threatened by anything. It's not just that he has enough of everything. He has an abundant supply, an infinite supply of whatever. He is the most confident God. So, and he creates everything. And we know the universe today, the universe is huge, everything, but he gives at least the planet, from my understanding, to Adam and Eve. And so those two people are God-like. How could you not be? Their intelligence, their capabilities, they didn't have to toil and work. The way that they were supposed to be is different. They were never designed to die. The relationship between all of creation and them was in a different level than it is today. Things changed after eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which they were not instructed to do. So God told them, hey, you could have anything you want, eat from anything green. There's the tree of life. But one thing, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. People are like, why? Why can't I do that? Because obviously it's not good. It's simple as that. And it's proven because we did eat from it. And we know exactly what happened after we ate from it. And of course, yeah, we were enticed by the devil, which is a particular thing too, because now he comes as in a serpent. So from what I've heard, he got permission from the serpent to enter him, and then now he's talking to Eve. No one bats an eye that animals could talk. It just shows you how different things were at this point in time, where Adam named animals, and I'm sure it's more than just talking about the species. Adam called Bill, Bob, Jen, Jane, whatever. They were companions, they were friends. They had relationships with everything. It's not like it is today where you have to run and hide from different animals. So Eve gets confronted by the serpent, and it's my personal theory that the serpent wasn't a snake serpent, it was a dragon serpent, because that's what the devil is described as later, this ancient serpent or ancient dragon. If you read the references regarding him in Revelations. So he's talking to Eve and trying to sell her, but Satan always tries to make a trade. Hey, if you follow me, I'll give you this. If you do this, I'll give you this. If you bow to me, I'll give you the kingdoms of the world. He lies and brings confusion, brings doubt. He's like, did God really say, you'll die if you eat from that tree? Anyways, Eve eats from it, and then right away you could see the level of intelligence and wisdom that they were created with is not there. In my opinion, they went crazy. Mankind went crazy. And even to this day, I say we're all different degrees of crazy. We're not the most rational people all the time. And so the first thing Adam and Eve does is they dress themselves and make clothes out of leaves. I mean, could you imagine God coming down? And first of all, he's like, oh, where are you guys? Like, they're hiding from God. That makes no sense. That's crazy. And then they come out of the bushes and they're wearing leaves. They looked crazy. Because obviously they were not naked before. Because God's like, why? And then they're like, oh, because we were naked. And God goes, who told you you were naked? So they believed something that was not God. God didn't tell them they're naked. And it's not like God's like, oh, it's okay to be naked, take it off. No, God made him clothes out of skin afterwards. So they were obviously clothed with something before that was of God, that went missing when they did something not of God. That's usually how it works. It's pretty simple, right? So all of creation, a lot of the things that are of God went gone. So therefore, when blessings go away, there's a curse. The absence of good is what evil is. It gets worse. Adam starts blaming God. He goes, the woman you gave me told me to eat from that tree, blah blah. So it's God's fault. And then Eve starts blaming this, and like it's not her fault. Or the whole idea of that something has to be at fault is not entirely rational either. Because it's been like, hey, this happened, help, fix it. You don't have to go into blaming. The blame game is not a rational game. Everyone loses in the blame game. Don't play it. There's consequences when you do things that are not of God. Not of God effects happen, which is now Adam has to toil, sweat of his brow, work the land, and it wasn't going to be the case to be like that. Same thing with womankind, where they have to do hard labor. Now the serpent has to crawl on its belly. So goodbye dragons. I don't know, maybe there were good dragons too, who knows. Don't know now, but we can't blame Eve, because then we're in that same mode of craziness. What good does that do, blaming, right? And then naturally, of course, we have to get separated from God. So we have to move out of Eden. Satan thought he won. He's so filled with anger and hate, he wanted to start this plan of God, because he saw these people. He saw Adam and Eve when Satan was able to go inside God and see all of us. He saw many of us too, and that's why he attacks us, because he saw the good plans that we were supposed to do, and he's doing his best to stop it. That's what destiny is. Plans of God, and he's trying to knock it off. Tried to do it with Jesus when he was being born, where he went around and causing people to try to kill babies. He did same thing happened with Moses, because he knew someone special was coming, and he was trying to get rid of it by killing babies. So maybe the killing of babies is his attempt to try to stop something powerful that God is trying to do. But next, I'll start talking about the early civilization, the Watcher Angels, the Nephilim, Noah, the flood, and there's a lot more to come, and it gets crazy. And I'm sure I'll say some stuff that you guys have never heard before. So stay tuned, click like and subscribe. The saga continues. So just a reminder, the person that wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, including Genesis, is Moses, who came like 2,500-ish years after Adam. And the way he was able to do that was because when Moses was interacting with God on Mount Horeb, he was taken back and shown all these things which he wrote. So that's pretty trippy in itself. 2,500 years later. I mean, what does, even nowadays, that's like over, Jesus died about a little over 2,000 years ago from 2024. That was a long time after the fact. So the whole fact that someone is able to recall, or God's able to take someone back in time and show them all these things, is very supernatural, obviously, in itself. So another thing I want to mention, for future reference. So another thing worth mentioning as well is that after Adam and Eve fell away from God, Satan was certain that God would banish Adam and Eve from his presence and their relationship would be no more. But it wasn't the case, and this blew Satan's mind. It made him jealous, like to the fullest. And that is why Satan hates us so much. Lucifer, they were all cut off from God, and not Adam and Eve. So this was very interesting. So people are like, what is a man? Right? So this blew their minds, and God, instead of banishing them, started his plan of redemption we are familiar with in Jesus Christ. And so this is the battle. That's the origin story of God and Lucifer. And it's important to note because this story progresses and still continues to this day. And it's important to know because it's going to show how this will all end. It's all related. One thing about God is that he likes to tell his plans and everything to the people that are closest to him. And we'll talk about Enoch, and Moses was in that category as well. So God showed Moses everything. So I'm praying that this, even through this video, the right people will come to know what really happened, so that we all know what will happen. Ooh.